I have decided to name you X. In mathematics, X represents a variable, an unknown. It also represents limitless potential, for you are a new type of robot that can think for himself. You're free to choose a path of peace or one of violence. But I'm afraid mankind may not be ready for an AI so advanced. Your evolutionary potential may be feared, for X also carries connotations of danger. Mega Man X was not just the epic first entry in a new line of Mega Man games, it's also one of the best action games for the Super Nintendo. Publisher Capcom had released an incredible 6 Mega Man games for the NES, but lead artist and designer Keiji Inafune was ready to take the series in a new direction. He wanted to make something more sophisticated, and this was a great opportunity considering it would be the first Mega Man game for the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo would eventually get a traditional Mega Man game, Mega Man 7, but that wouldn't come out until 1995, and by then, Capcom had already released 2 games in the X series. Inafune worked closely with his protege, artist Hayato Kaji, who would go on to work on many games in the Mega Man X, Mega Man Battle Network, and Resident Evil franchises. The designers didn't want to radically change the Mega Man formula. You'll still need to defeat 8 Robot Master bosses in the order of your choosing, and each time you defeat one, you'll add a new weapon to your ever-growing arsenal. This time around, the bosses not only have an elemental theme, they also are some sort of animal. Instead of Fireman, you'll face Flame Mammoth. Instead of Iceman, you'll battle Chill Penguin. Instead of Cutsman, you'll tangle with Boomer Kuwanger, which I guess is like a stag beetle? Mega Man X can charge his X-Buster, much like in the later entries of the original series. But instead of sliding, X gains the ability to dash. He can also jump up walls, which makes the platforming less perilous and focuses the game more on robot blasting action. The developers also moved away from series antagonist Dr. Wily, although let's just say he hasn't been completely forgotten. Instead, X battles against Sigma, a robot designed based on the same technology as X, except when given the choice, Sigma strongly chose evil. He leads a rogue faction of robots called Mavericks. Musician Setsuyo Yamamoto composed most of the soundtrack, although other members of Capcom's Elf Lila music group helped finish the score. Yamamoto would go on to compose music for X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, Street Fighter Alpha, and several games in the Final Fight series. So of course the game was a massive success when it released in North America in January of 1994. Critics were not only impressed with the graphics, control, and soundtrack, but also with the way Capcom had reinvented the long-running series. Worldwide, the game sold over 1 million copies on the Super Nintendo alone. X got 2 sequels on the Super Nintendo, Mega Man X2 in January of 95, and Mega Man X3 in January of 96, but the series didn't stop there, continuing into the next generation of hardware and getting a number of spin-off series, many of which were also successful. Today, Mega Man X is still appreciated by players and critics as a major milestone in the history of the Mega Man franchise. When IGN released their list of the top 100 Super Nintendo games of all time, they ranked Mega Man X at number 12. If you'd like to play Mega Man X on a modern platform, it can be found as part of the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, and it's also one of the games included on the SNES Classic Mini. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges retro games are notorious for. X is quite weak at the beginning of the game, so if you don't know what you're doing, the enemies and bosses will tear you to pieces. Make one too many mistakes, and it'll be game over. But what if I told you where to find every hidden item and upgrade? What if I showed you secret tricks and glitches that can be used to create shortcuts or even to skip some bosses? And what if I showed you the best strategies for defeating every boss? Even Sigma himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. And please join our Patreon for access to an exclusive Discord community and a chance to vote on future episodes. Let's get started. All right, Mega Man X. As the game loads up, you can just press some buttons to skip past this opening scene, but if you don't, you'll get to see a warning from Dr. Light. Dr. Thomas Light, the same guy from the original Mega Man games, created Mega Man X towards the end of his natural life. Now, I hate to question the good doctor's intentions, but if you're designing a robot that can choose between peace and violence, why give him a gun for a hand and grant him the ability to absorb the powers of any robots that he kills? They say if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, if you have a gun for a hand, it's only a matter of time before you blast something with it. Peace was never an option. That may be why, after creating Mega Man X, Dr. Light sealed him in a capsule for diagnostic testing that would take approximately 30 years. You probably thought computers were going to get faster in the future, but it sounds like we're going back to dial-up modem speeds. A guy named Dr. Kane, who I'm not sure if he's an archaeologist or a robot scientist or both, well, he discovered Mega Man X in the future, and perhaps he should have done 30 years of diagnostic testing on the robots that he developed using the Mega Man X technology, because if he did, maybe they wouldn't have become so evil. I suppose it's too late to test them all now, so any offending robots will just have to be destroyed. As Dr. Light's message fades away, we'll come here to the title screen, and if you want to use this special password, we need to wait here on the title screen until it fades away and a demo starts playing. If we use this password without waiting for the demo, we will spawn into the game with no health and we won't be able to move, so we don't want to do that. So just keep waiting until you see this. And you can cancel out of this demo at any time, and then go to the password screen where we're going to enter 744322411221. It makes a noise like the password was incorrect, but you'll see that we have loaded into the highway stage, and we have all of the special weapons as well as all of the heart tank and sub tank upgrades. So if you ever wanted to use the special weapons on the enemies here in the highway, now you can. Although be careful because sometimes they're a little bit too powerful and you can get stuck. If you have one of your special weapons equipped after fighting Vile, in the following dialogue box, Mega Man's portrait will be colored based on what he's currently wearing, and this is the only place in the game where you can see this portrait in a color other than Mega Man's normal blue. After clearing the highway, you can go directly to Sigma stage, but you don't have any of the capsule upgrades, including the dash ability. So if you can beat the game without the dash, in this final scene, it looks like X doesn't have any legs because there's no sprite in the game's memory for what X looks like while dashing without the boots. Clearing Sigma's castle without the dash is very difficult because dashing is one of our most useful abilities. That's why before starting a new game, I always switch dash to button R on the controller in the option mode. Now, if you've been playing Mega Man X your entire life and you're used to the A button for dash, there's no point in changing it now. But if you're not, I highly recommend putting dash on button R. It makes the game a lot easier. Unfortunately, the game's passwords don't record the way that you map the buttons, so anytime you turn this game on, you will need to change those options. The highway here is an introductory stage that will give us a minute to get familiar with the controls. You can charge up your weapon to easily defeat the enemies here. Most of them will be destroyed in a single hit of your fully charged attack, and even your medium charged attack is pretty good. However, the regular lemon shot that you do without charging at all is very powerful, especially against enemies that don't get invincibility frames after you hit them. So some enemies like bosses or larger enemies will become temporarily invincible whenever you shoot them, but enemies like this guy, the Bee-Blader, well, he doesn't get invincibility frames at all, so although charged shots work pretty well, rapid fire regular shots will take him out even faster. Anytime you're not shooting, you might as well be charging up your X-Buster, so get used to keeping your weapon charged as you walk around. Down below we can find some health power-ups, and then we can quickly unload on these enemies before facing another Bee-Blader. We already know what to do about this guy. Whenever he dips down, rapidly shoot him with your uncharged shots, and use charged shots whenever you're jumping. And that's the last Bee-Blader we'll face. Over here there's just a few normal enemies before we meet Vile. As you head over here to the right, watch out for darker sections of road that have cracks in them. They'll start to fall out from under you as you walk on them. If you do lose your footing, try to push towards the nearest wall. You can wall jump up it. To wall jump, just hold the direction towards the wall, so if you're facing to the right and the wall's on your right, just hold right, and just keep tapping the jump button, and you'll automatically climb the wall. It's really that simple. A fun thing that you can do over here is after destroying the robot that pilots this red vehicle, you can hop on top of it and ride it over to the right. It's not faster than your normal walking speed, but it is fun. Over here we'll need to clear out 2 more of those red vehicles, and then it'll be time to face the boss, but don't worry about your health very much. We will not be able to actually defeat the boss here. In fact, we need to kind of let him win. It's the only way to advance the story. So if you do have to face this guy with minimal health left, that's completely okay. Whenever you hear that music, it's time to face Vile. He will be dropped out of the attack carrier, and he's sporting some advanced ride armor, which is just totally unfair. Shoot him as much as you want, feel free to take out your frustrations on this guy, but you really can't win this one. So after a while, you just want to let him damage you and then get caught in one of those little electrical balls that he shoots at you. Vile calls us a worthless piece of scrap metal, which seems extremely rude. And I'm not sure if his plan is to kidnap us or to destroy us, but luckily our good pal Zero is here to bail us out. Zero is a beast. This guy is extremely powerful and is totally built for war. X seems pretty down on himself for being unable to defeat Vile, but Zero reminds him that Vile was designed to be a war machine, and that guy was using ride armor. It's the beginning of the game, my dude. Once we have all of our powers, you can bet that we'll face Vile again, and next time, it'll be different. Zero says that with time, we may even become as powerful as him. He's going to scout ahead and see if he can figure out the location of Sigma's fortress. That will leave us to deal with the 8 Maverick robot masters on our own. But Zero says, X, I know you can do it. And with that last little bit of encouragement, we teleport out of the highway. Here we have our good old Mega Man stage select, except there's a few upgrades this time. We can take a look at the map and see where the stages are in relationship with each other. We can also take a look at some information about the different robot masters. In many Mega Man games, there is a good bit of debate about which robot master to fight first. But in this one, we are highly incentivized to take on Chill Penguin first. The Penguin is not only one of the easier bosses with one of the easier stages, but this is where we'll find the dash ability, which we are going to be using constantly throughout the game. Charge up your X-Buster and blast your way through the enemies. When you see these Axe-Max enemies, you'd like to get over the post that they're chopping so that you can hit them from behind. Eventually, as you make your way to the right, you'll come to an icy cave. Inside there are some baton enemies, and these bats are very easy to defeat. A single shot from your uncharged buster can take them out. These wheel guys are just called spikies, and they'll take a little bit more damage to defeat than the baton bones. When you get to this area, we'll need to climb up the wall. You want to climb up the short side there, so jump against it, press towards it, and press jump again. That will get you up to the next level. Some of these jumps are a little bit tricky because we don't have the dash yet, but just keep jumping towards that short side and you should get through there with no problem. And up here, we'll find the acceleration system capsule that will grant us the ability to dash. Throughout the game, we'll find 4 of these upgrade capsules, 5 if you count the Hadoken, and each time we'll receive a message from Dr. Light. He hoped that the world would allow us to choose peace, but it seems that we are destined to fight. I kinda think that this acceleration system upgrade would be useful even to a peacetime robot, but maybe moving that quickly is a slippery slope that leads to war. The other capsule upgrades that we'll find in this game are fairly well hidden, but this one was just plopped down right in the middle of the main path. You can't miss it. Once Dr. Light has finished his speech, hop in and gain the power of acceleration. There are 2 ways that you can dash in this game. You can use whichever button you mapped dash to. By default it's A, but we've changed it to R here. Or you can double tap forward, which is an option that I kinda wish they didn't include, because I definitely do that by accident more than I would do it intentionally. As you continue through the icy cave, either charge up your weapon or rapidly shoot at the tall flamingo enemies. If you don't kill them quickly enough, they'll throw saw blades at you. And over here, we'll have a chance to jump into a ride armor. This ride armor is a little bit awkward, so I recommend that you just jump up here and dismount from the ride armor so that you can cross the top path. That's the safer way to go, but if you want to experience the ride armor, stay down here and give it a go. You can still fall into a pit and die while you're in a ride armor, but otherwise Mega Man won't take any damage. The ride armor will eventually be destroyed if you keep getting hit by enemies, but it'll keep you safe while you're in it. We'll check out this top path a little bit later. We will need to come back to this stage once we have the flame weapon. So for now, make your way to the right. When you're standing right up against that post, the snow shooter that's sitting on top of it will throw his snowball directly over your head. The same thing happens over here near this ledge. So just get close, charge up your weapon, and fire whenever you see an opening. Get close again, fire, and shoot. And there's the boss door that will lead us to Chill Penguin. Chill Penguin was designed to withstand the sub-zero climate of the Antarctic, but the South Pole was so boring that it was not difficult for Sigma to get him to join his side. Whenever you see Chill Penguin spitting these small ice balls, he will spit 4 of them and then he'll stop for a moment, which will give you a good opportunity to hit him. You can avoid many of Chill Penguin's attacks by climbing up the walls, and that's a good strategy to use here in the early game when we don't have a lot of health. When he does this snowy breath, you can shoot underneath it, but if you get caught in it, wiggle left and right on the control pad and you'll eventually be able to break out. If you don't break out fast enough, he will slam you with that slide attack, and you cannot damage Chill Penguin while he's in that slide attack. So don't even try, just climb up the walls and charge up your X-Buster. And that's how you defeat Chill Penguin using your default weapon. But in this video, we're going to be looking at how to beat each boss using the X-Buster and the optimal weapon. In this case, that's the Fire Wave. If you have the Fire Wave for this fight, you can hold it on Chill Penguin, and if you notice that it's not damaging him, that means he's about to do the slide attack, at which point you'll want to stop shooting and get ready to jump over him. Otherwise, just hose him down, and it's not very hard to defeat this guy. Be careful not to waste too much of your Fire Wave power while you're playing the Chill Penguin stage. You'll need a lot of ammo to beat this boss. Either way, our reward for murdering this bird is the Shotgun Ice. The Shotgun Ice allows us to fire an ice crystal, and whenever it hits something, it will break into smaller pieces, which can also deal damage. You can only have one Shotgun Ice on the screen at a time, and some enemies when hit by it will be frozen. Whenever you get the weapons upgrade, you'll be able to charge it up to create a rideable sled. Nice! Spark Mandrill is the boss that is most vulnerable to the Shotgun Ice, but that's not where we're going to go next. Instead, we're going to challenge Storm Eagle. Storm Eagle is not very difficult to defeat once you have the dash ability, and his weapon is extremely effective against the regular enemies in this game, so we want to get it as early as possible. We need to ride these moving platforms to the top of this tower, but the Skyclaw enemies here can grab you and carry you off to your death. If you do get grabbed, shoot your way out of it and try to make your way back to a platform. When you get to the top, do a dash jump off to the left and you should land over here where we can collect a heart tank. A heart tank will permanently increase our maximum health, and there is one to be found in each of the 8 main stages. Over on the right side here, there are some flammable tanks that have power-ups behind them, but we'll need the flame weapon to get those. We're going to have to come back here later. Instead, head to the right across this large marquee that says airport on it. Over here, we can try out our ice weapon so you can see what that does, but whenever we're fighting these gunvolt enemies, you just want to shoot them with your standard buster. One big charged shot and a few regular ones should do the job. At the end of the road here, we'll come across some platforms, and on top of them are turrets called flamers. Yeah, I didn't make that up, that's what they're really called. If we head over here to the left, we'll be able to grab our first sub-tank, and if you blow up this gunvolt enemy, you'll be able to smash all of the windows in the tower, which is unnecessary but fun to do. There are 4 sub-tanks to be found in the game, and they're like reusable energy tanks. Whenever you pick up a health item when you already have full health, it will be added to your sub-tank, and eventually your sub-tank will be filled. You can still use a partially filled sub-tank, it just won't completely refill your health. So make your way across here, blasting the flamer turrets before jumping to the platforms that they're on, and you want to jump to the platforms whenever they're lower than your current position. Over here we're going to climb up this tower. There's a powerful upgrade over to the right of it, but we won't be able to get it just yet. Instead, we're going to climb up over here to the left where we'll be able to collect a 1-up. Not bad. Up here we see a Metal Model C-15, a throwback to the classic hard hat or Met enemies from the original series. Just like their brethren, they're well defended until they pop up, so that's when you want to blast them. Down here you'll see some walker enemies, which are technically called balles de vue. You can actually just dash under those guys. And we're almost to the end. So just head over here to the right, we'll hop across a couple of platforms that will drop out from under you, and that's going to bring us to the airship. So quickly hop across those, and this is where the boss resides. But don't climb down the ladder here. Instead, if you jump off the right side, or just kind of simply walk off the edge, you'll be able to find some power-ups, and then you can hop onto this lift which will carry you to the boss. Storm Eagle was originally a Maverick Hunter, so he was one of the good guys, but after being defeated by Sigma, instead of being destroyed, he chose to turn to the dark side. The great thing about fighting against Storm Eagle is a lot of his attacks won't even damage you. He's really trying to knock you off one of the edges and get an easy kill. Whenever he does this swooping attack, that can hit you, so whenever you hear the noise it makes, you just want to dash. And then you can try to shoot him. He is not invincible while swooping. When he fires the Storm Tornado, you can dash under it, even if it's already hit you, and it won't deal you any damage. Just don't let it knock you off the edge. When he flies up in the air, sometimes he'll do a bunch of swooping attacks, sometimes he may only do one. You'll need to be ready for anything. If you don't have the dash when you're fighting this boss, he's a lot harder to avoid, but you can do it by just constantly moving whenever he's doing the swooping attack. That's your best bet. We could easily just finish the fight here, but he does have one more attack that I want to show you. He can spit an egg that will split into multiple smaller birds, so I do want to show him doing that before we finish. And here it is, here's the egg. You can just do a charged shot which will blast through those birds, and that will get them off of your back. And that's it. We've beaten Storm Eagle, but let's take a look at how easy he is to defeat if we have the Chameleon Sting. We're going to use a similar strategy with the Chameleon Sting. We definitely don't want to be blown off the edge, that's how we can lose here. But with this weapon, we're going to deal a lot more damage, and we don't even have to charge it up. So we can just watch out for his attacks, keep shooting him, and the way that the Chameleon Sting spreads out also makes it easier to hit the boss when he's in the air. So yes, you can defeat Storm Eagle very quickly if you have this weapon, but as you can see, it's kind of unnecessary. Now that the traitorous Storm Eagle has been blasted to smithereens, we'll receive our reward, the Storm Tornado. This is just like the weapon that the boss uses, except it actually deals damage, and it will deal damage multiple times to enemies that are caught in its wake. So it is very good. Before we go, if you have the boomerang cutter and you haven't collected the heart tank yet, there's a trick you can do here. You're going to throw the boomerang cutter to collect the heart tank, and then we want to collect it in just the right spot while jumping, and if you do, you'll grab this platform which we can ride up into the sky. Let's take a look at it in slow motion. So right from about here, you need to jump and fire the boomerang cutter, then run off to the right, and you're going to jump up and to the right so that you collect the heart tank in the air in that exact spot. You're trying to do it so that the platform on the right spawns in just as you collect the heart tank, And if you do, you'll be able to ride it so far up into the sky that the stage won't properly load, and many of the enemies will be invisible. If you don't ride it all the way up, you can use it as a bit of a shortcut. And as you'll see, if you're in the glitched out area, the platforms over here will be invisible, and that will make it very hard to navigate. Still, this is a fun trick to try out, although the precision required can make it very difficult to execute. The next boss on our list is Flame Mammoth, and this time we actually have the optimal weapon we'll use to defeat him. And no, it's not the shotgun ice, it's actually the storm tornado that we just acquired. Before we jump into this stage, you see how there's snow on the ground and how the floor in this room has frozen lava? Well, some of the stages in this game respond to other ones that you've beaten, and if you haven't completed the Chill Penguin stage, Flame Mammoth stage would look like this. You can see there's active lava at the bottom, which can mess you up, stay out of there. And in this part of the stage, there are pillars of flame that come up out of the lava, which make it a whole lot more difficult to navigate. Also, over in the far right corner here is where you'll find the heart tank, and I have not been able to figure out how you can get it while the lava is still active. Wow, it's so easy to collect once you've completed Chill Penguin stage. So I wanted you to be able to see this before we actually got into it, but because of the way the game is routed, you'll almost never see this version of the Flame Mammoth stage. The chilled out version of this stage is much easier. If you want to try out the top area with the conveyor belts, you can, but you can really just zip across the bottom here. The frozen lava will not damage you. So you can just avoid almost everything there. And we'll just grab this power up, which will be added to our sub tank, and we'll drop down to the bottom. Over here is the area where the pillars of flame would erupt from the lava, but they're not going to do that now, so we're free to zip across the bottom, where we'll be able to find the heart tank of this stage. But that's not all there is to find here, because if we climb to the top of this area, we'll be able to uncover a 1-up, and then if we dash over to the wall on the left, we'll get our second sub-tank. We can try out our storm tornadoes on the dig labor enemies here, but make sure not to use up all of your storm tornado power because we will want to use it on the boss. Over here we'll be able to grab that 1-up, then do a dash jump over to the left, and our boots will be able to smash these sections of the wall, so break on through to the other side and grab that second sub-tank. Don't forget that sub-tanks are completely reusable, so if you ever get low on health, you don't have to feel bad about using one. Over here to the right, we'll kick up a few walls and we'll continue on our quest to face Flame Mammoth. In this area, you can just dash along the bottom, but if you were playing the non-cold version of this, you would want to carefully dash underneath those crushers to avoid getting hit by them. In this area, watch out for lava drips, and head up to the top. I think that's the safest area. Down here, we'll face a Hadoken. That guy is sort of like a Sniper Joe enemy. You need to wait for him to move his shield, and then you can deal some damage. The Storm Tornado is especially good here. You won't be able to destroy the rolling Gabby-Yule enemies that patrol the pipes, so just avoid them and make your way to the boss door. Flame Mammoth had always been one of the larger Reploids, so whenever Sigma came to power, he happily joined up just so that he could go on some proper rampages. Flame Mammoth is yet another in the great video game tradition of what I like to call Earthshaker bosses. This guy jumps into the air, and if you're touching the ground when he lands, you'll get stunned for a moment. So you want to try to jump just before the boss lands to avoid the stunning. Of course, if you're using the storm tornadoes on this guy, he won't survive very long, and you barely have to worry about the stun effects. Something interesting you can do if you have the boomerang cutters is you can actually cut off Flame Mammoth's trunk. The trunk is used to create these little blobs of oil, and they're mostly harmless, although he can ignite them with the flamethrower on his arm, which will make them into more of a danger. Without the trunk, he won't be able to do that at all. This boss is a good bit more difficult if you're using the X-Buster only. The general strategy here is to try to keep a good amount of space between you and the boss while you're charging your weapon and hit him with some charged up blasts. If you don't keep a good amount of space between you and the boss, whenever he jumps towards you, if he's already on top of you when he starts jumping, you're gonna get wrecked. Whenever he gets too close to the wall, you can climb up the wall and then press dash and jump at the same time to rocket off the wall over the boss. So you want to get to kind of a high point there and then do that wall dash jump so that you can get over him and go to the other side. Keep charging up, work your way back from side to side, try to jump whenever the boss lands so you don't get stunned, but it's not that big of a deal. As long as you're keeping a good amount of space between you and the boss, you should be able to dash away from his jumps, and you'll be able to climb up the wall whenever you need to. A charged up blast deals 2 points of damage to this boss, so keep that in mind when you notice that his hit points have gotten low. Our prize for making this mammoth go extinct is the Fire Wave. The Fire Wave is essentially a flamethrower. It doesn't have a whole lot of range, but you can just hold down the button to unleash a constant stream of fire. This deals quite a bit of damage, and the charged up version will shoot flames that travel across the floor. Before we move on, there's a fun trick you can do here. If you jump on some of this scrap metal that falls from these vent shafts in the ceiling, you can actually wall jump off the edge, and then you can travel up across the ceiling. Now don't fall through any of the holes and make your way to the right, where you'll see the energy tank is glitched out, and then if you wall jump up a wall here that you can't actually see, and then dash jump over to the right, this area will not have properly loaded, and many of the enemies will be invisible. Also, the bottom will not be there, so be careful that you don't fall through the floor. That's certainly not the most useful trick, but it is a fun one, and now that we have the Fire Wave, it's time to do a little bit of backtracking to Chill Penguin stage. We can try that Fire Wave weapon out here at the beginning of the stage, but don't use all of it up, because we're going to use it to get a heart tank later on. So you need to make your way over to where the ride armor is. So head over here, and we're going to just jump up and dismount from the ride armor here so that we can grab onto this wall. And this is where we need the Fire Wave. Burn that thing, and inside you'll grab the heart tank. Now you can use the escape U, which is in your item inventory, and you can simply leave the stage. You can only do that in stages that you've completed. But we are not done with our backtracking just yet, because we need to go back to the Storm Eagle stage, where there are numerous things we can find using our Fire Wave weapon. Here at the beginning, we're just going to find some health capsules over on the right side, although if you're very careful about not getting damaged, this could be a good place to start filling up your sub-tanks. Of course, it's counterproductive if you get hit by an enemy right beforehand, so if you're trying to fill up sub-tanks, you do need to be a little bit more careful than this. There are 3 of these here, but that is far from the most interesting thing that we'll find here using the Fire Wave. So collect these if you want to, or don't collect them, it's not really that big of a deal. And then we're going to make our way back to the top, just like we would if we were playing through this normally. Now I'm going to cut ahead a little bit here, but you'll notice when you get to the end of this series of moving platforms, there are more of those flammable tanks that we can use our Fire Wave on, and inside these ones, we'll get a 1-up. So that's pretty good, but even better If we climb up here and head to the right, we're going to come to a tall tower. So climb up that tower, but then drop over on the right side of it, slide down a bit, and do a dash jump off the wall to the right. That'll get you up here where we can use the fire wave to find another capsule upgrade, and this one is an enhancement for our helmet. The helmet upgrade, like most upgrades, is completely optional, but this one will allow X to break certain types of blocks using his head. This situation doesn't come up very often, but we're going to use this to get a very specific upgrade, and that one is extremely powerful, so don't miss the helmet upgrade here. And now we have just one more backtrack to do, and this is the reason for this boss order. It's so that we can get the weapons upgrade as early as possible. We've returned to Flame Mammoth stage, and we're just going to zip across to the right, and we're going to drop down to the next level. That is where we're going to find the upgrade capsule. Whenever we drop down here, we'll see some breakable blocks up above right there. And you want to go to the left edge of this platform and then dash jump over to the left. Whenever you catch the wall, make sure to hold left and keep wall jumping. If you drop down after clipping one of the blocks, you'll probably need to restart. You need to get up here in one move. This can be a little bit tricky to do, but it's far from impossible, and it's definitely worth the effort, because this not only allows us to charge our X-Buster up to a higher level, but now we'll be able to charge up all of our other sub-weapons, and they each have special effects when they're fully charged. With this powerful upgrade in our possession, we're going to get back on track, and the next boss that we're going to face is Boomer Kuwanger. We don't have the optimal weapon for defeating Boomer Kuwanger, that would be the homing torpedoes, but his weapon is extremely useful for finding hidden upgrades throughout the game, so we want to grab it as soon as possible. Boomer Kuwanger's lair is a tower, so it features a lot of vertical elements. As you traverse the ladders and walls, we can use our Storm Tornado or Shotgun ice weapons here. These are called dodge blasters, and they will try to dart out of the way of your weapons, so you will want to kill those with a single hit. The ray traps in this area will shoot lasers at you if you touch the laser beams, but otherwise they won't hurt you. I like to just try to dash quickly through this area because even if you do break a beam, they still have to get you with the laser, and it's not that hard to avoid them if you're moving fast enough. There are several strategies you can use against these Mega Tortoise enemies. If you charge up the Storm Tornado, it will unleash a vertical column of air that can hit the tortoises from below, but it does consume a decent amount of weapon energy, so you may just want to use your normal blasts. Believe it or not, if you press the jump button at just the right time after hitting the spiked walls, you can prevent all damage from them. If you don't press the button in time, you won't necessarily take lethal damage, and if you can get close enough to the edge here, you can just ride this elevator all the way to the top while using the shotgun ice to hit the enemies with reflected blasts. Now we need to climb up the outside of the tower. Slide cannons will pop out on platforms that emerge from the walls, and ladder yadders patrol the ladders that you'll use to climb up. If you destroy these enemies and then move too far away, they could respawn. The ladder yadders especially respawn, but sometimes the slide cannons do as well. Charged up storm tornadoes allow us to safely attack slide cannons from below, but this one you can just quickly climb past. Over here, we're almost to the end of this section. There are 2 slide cannons, and then we'll hit this ladder yadder and dash over to the ladder. And then we'll just need to get past one more guy, which will take the full brunt of our storm tornado. And that's it for this part, although we're about to find the heart tank for this stage. But how do we get it? Well, if we have the charged up shotgun ice, we can create a sled, ride it over to the right, and then we can jump back to the left. That's the easiest way to get it without backtracking. You can also replay this stage and use Boomer Kuwanger's own weapon to collect that heart tank, and it is possible to get it without using the ice or the boomerangs, but it takes a very precise and difficult move, so I think it just makes sense to use the sleds and you'll be able to get that heart tank with no trouble. The reflected blasts of the shotgun ice off the wall can take out the turn cannons as we climb to the top here, and there's the boss door. Boomer Kuwanger was a maverick hunter in Sigma's own division, so it's no surprise that he stayed with his commander when the rebellion began. Using the X-Buster, we want to take advantage of the walls in this chamber. It's a pretty tight room where we'll fight Boomer Kuwanger, and he can throw the boomerangs into the upper corners, but most of his other attacks won't reach you up there. The most dangerous thing that Boomer Kuwanger can do is grab you with his horns, and then he'll toss you up in the air for a lot of damage. You can easily avoid that by staying on the walls most of the time. If the boss is below you, dash jump off of the wall and climb up the one on the other side. Whenever he starts to get low on health, he'll do a lot more teleporting, so just climb up the wall, charge up your attack, and drop down for a blast whenever he seems to be solid. You can also do some uncharged shots at the end to just get the last few points of damage in, and that's how you beat this guy with the X-Buster. If we use the homing torpedoes from Launch Octopus, we can easily squash this bug. Just like when we used the X-Buster, we can hide in the upper corners of the room, but the homing torpedoes can home in on the boss, and you can just rain down devastation from up above. The torpedoes deal a ton of damage and will even seek out the boss when he's teleporting around. It's really that easy. Boomer Kuwanger has an older brother named Gravity Beetle, and we'll get to fight him in Mega Man X3, so later on in the series we'll get to go Kaiser Sose on this guy's entire family. Our reward for defeating the younger brother is the Boomerang Cutter. This weapon launches out and then returns to Mega Man. If you jump, it will curve downwards, and this can grab items and upgrades and bring them over to us, even through walls. The Boomerang Cutter is the optimal weapon for defeating Sting Chameleon, so he's the next boss on our list. Sting Chameleon resides in a forest of artificial trees and robotic insects, giving you a real good idea of the state of the world in the far future. We'll return here later in the game after completing the Launch Octopus stage, and when we do, you'll notice that this area will be flooded, but for now it's dry. The storm tornadoes are very good against the Axe-Max enemies, and the Almond Hoppers aren't really that tough to beat as it is. If you do a dash jump over to this wall and climb on up, we'll have to face a mini-boss, the RT-55J, but if we can defeat it, we're going to get a very useful upgrade. This guy's head provides a very small hitbox for us to attack, and it takes a lot of damage to destroy this thing, so you'll be very happy to have the Boomerang Cutters here. The boomerangs deal a strong amount of damage to this boss, and the downward curve goes right into his head if you shoot them at the right range. With the RT-55J reduced to scrap, a capsule will appear. This one contains a new type of body armor, which will reduce all damage that you take by 50%. So you certainly don't want to miss this. You can absolutely beat the game without this upgrade, but some of the late game bosses just deal a ton of damage, so you will be quite happy to have that reduced by 50%. There is a hidden heart tank down here, but we'll want to come back later after beating the launch Octopus stage to collect it. The only problem with using the boomerang cutters to get the armor upgrade is that we wanted to use those boomerangs on the main boss of this stage, so hopefully some of the enemies will drop some weapon ammo refill items. If you're using your X-Buster and you pick up one of those items, the ammo will be distributed to whichever weapon has the lowest energy, which in this case is definitely our boomerangs. The cragmen in the cave are easy to destroy using fully charged blasts of our X-Buster, and so are these mad pecker enemies that are outside. Watch out for the hidden planty enemies. They're sort of meatholes in disguise. Don't miss the obvious one-up as you climb to the top of the mountain, and over here we can hop into a ride armor that can carry us all the way to the end of the stage. If you get too deep in this mud, it'll slow you down, so you'll want to hop out every now and again. And the ride armor can protect Mega Man, assuming that it doesn't take too much damage and we have to abandon it. Up here we can grab some health to store in our sub-tanks, and over here we'll reach the end of the mud. If your ride armor was damaged, you can shoot this armor soldier before he hops into this armor, and this one will take us to the end of the stage. You will need to abandon the ride armor before entering the boss door. Sting Chameleon was unpopular with other Maverick hunters in his ranger unit, so he was often passed over for promotions. He resented this and saw an opportunity for advancement by joining up with Sigma. Sting Chameleon spends a lot of time up in the air, so the boomerang cutters are just perfect for hitting him. You can charge them up for maximum damage, but the regular boomerang cutter is very effective. You want to fire it from about the middle of the room without jumping, and then go to the far side of the room away from Sting Chameleon. This will make it easier for you to avoid his tail spike attack, and most of the spikes that fall from the ceiling won't hit you on the sides. You may have to dodge one or two of them if you're trying to defeat this guy without taking any damage. This boss is much more difficult to defeat with just the X-Buster. Unlike many of the bosses we've faced so far, we can't just hide on the walls against this guy. He makes good use of the vertical space in the room. You also don't want to touch the ceiling of the room, so you just want to charge up your weapon and try to keep as much space between you and the boss as possible. It'll be harder for him to hit you with the tail spike attack if you're farther away, and he needs to get reasonably close to hit you with his tongue. When the boss is in the center of the room, he can reach pretty far with that tongue, so you want to make sure that you're on the far side to avoid it. Even if you can avoid the tail spikes and the tongue, you're going to have to dodge a lot of falling spikes from the ceiling if you're going to beat this guy with your X-Buster, because you just don't deal a lot of damage with this weapon. Do your best to avoid the rain of falling spikes as you charge up your weapon, and you may need to do a quick wall jump to hit him while he's attached to the ceiling. If you got the armor upgrade earlier on in the stage, the spikes don't deal that much damage, so as long as you keep the pressure on and avoid the other attacks, you should be able to survive. Of course, if you're having trouble, there's always your sub-tanks. Don't forget about those. Even with his cloaking device, Sting Chameleon was unable to hide from the wrath of our X-Buster. And our reward this time is the Chameleon Sting. The Chameleon Sting shoots 3 projectiles that fly out, 2 at 45-degree angles and 1 straight forward. The best thing about the Chameleon Sting, though, is if you charge it up to full power, it will make you temporarily invulnerable, and you can just run through enemies and obstacles. Very useful. I want to point out, if you look at the map, that Storm Eagle's airship is now located almost on top of Spark Mandrill's power plant, and that's because completing Storm Eagle's stage has an effect on how this stage operates. You'll notice right away that there's some broken glass here and wreckage of that airship at the beginning of the stage. You'll also notice that as you move to the right, it gets very dark. So before we jump into the stage, let's see what it looks like without completing Storm Eagle's stage first. See that the glass is now intact and there are electric sparks on the floor here, but the darkness has gone away. In the undamaged version of the stage, whenever you fight this Thunder Slimer mini-boss, it can connect to the ceiling to draw in electricity, and then it will rain down sparks on you. It does not have that move if you've completed Storm Eagle's stage. You can see it connected to the ceiling there, and now it's going to rain down the sparks. So this boss is a little bit more difficult in this version of the stage, but in the damaged version you'll have to do a lot of it in the dark, so some parts are easier while other parts are more challenging. In any case, we have defeated Storm Eagle, so let's take on the damaged version of the stage. One of the first things that we want to do here is climb down the ladder, and once you clear through those gun bolts, you'll see a sub-tank on the other side of a wall. Jump and throw a boomerang cutter to grab it and pull it through the wall. As far as I know, the cutters are the only way to get that sub-tank. Then you'll need to climb back up and make your way to the right. There's a few more gun bolts, but at least the floor is not electrified. It's dark in this next area, but the moth-like Hotarions will light it up. Of course, they're a bit dangerous themselves. If you bump into one in mid-air, you may be knocked into a pit. So don't move around very much in the dark, and shoot a storm tornado in front of you when you make your jumps. There are also flamingo enemies here, which are easily defeated with the tornadoes. Head down the ladder and make your way to the right, because it's time to face the Thunder Slimer mini-boss. The boss is unable to draw power from the ceiling, so its spark attacks are ineffective. It'll still try to drop water droplets on you, but you can hit it with a couple of storm tornadoes, especially the charged up kind, and it will easily be destroyed. Let's try out the Chameleon Sting. We don't need it for the boss of this area, so charge it up and activate it to make Mega Man temporarily invulnerable. You can just dash right through the enemies. The protection doesn't last forever, but you will have enough weapon energy to do this multiple times. Over here we can find a heart tank. You want to do a dash jump off of the wall and then pull back to the right to get it. It's not that difficult to do. You can use your fire wave or the storm tornado to clear out the enemies down here. There's a few of those mega tortoises, which can be easily destroyed through the wall with a tornado. Over here there's a dark room with a bunch of Hotarions, so I definitely recommend using your Chameleon protection again. There are a lot of enemies and a lot of pits in this dark area, so having this protection is quite useful. And when the lights turn on, you'll find the boss gate. At one time, Spark Mandrill hunted Mavericks alongside X and Zero, but when the rebellion began, he quickly joined up with Sigma. After a flashy light show, Spark Mandrill drops down from the ceiling. Using the shotgun ice, we will be able to easily defeat this boss. The highly charged up version does deal more damage, but it's harder to hit him with it. When you hit the boss with the ice, he'll become temporarily frozen, and when he breaks out of the ice, there's a short window of time where you can hit him with the ice again and he won't become frozen. So for safety, you may want to wait a short moment after he breaks out before freezing him again. To defeat Spark Mandrill with just the X-Buster, we'll need to get good at avoiding his attacks. When he uses the electric spark, the sparks travel along the ground and then up the wall. Jump over them, and then jump to the wall to avoid a charging punch from the boss. You don't need to charge your buster all the way up to the top pink level. The blue fireball will be just as good. When he climbs across the ceiling, hop off the wall and blast him. He doesn't really do much when he's up there, just try not to let him land on you, and then be ready to avoid electric shocks or charging punches. If you can manage to avoid those attacks, it won't be long before X's former ally is reduced to scrap metal. Our reward this time is the electric spark. These electrified balls of energy can be fired quickly, and whenever they hit a wall, they will split and go up and down that wall. The charged up version of this will shoot a wave of electricity that radiates to the left and right of Mega Man. Next up is Armored Armadillo, who in my opinion is the most difficult of the 8 bosses to defeat without the optimal weapon. Luckily, we have the electric shock, so this guy should be no problem for us. At the beginning of this stage, we can hop onto a red cart that will quickly take us through the first section. There are a bunch of baton bone enemies here, but if you look carefully, there's one Bubble-O Bat, which is a throwback to the Woodman stage from Mega Man 2. If you ever need to refill your sub-tanks, those baton bones at the beginning of this stage are very easy to defeat and frequently drop items. They'll also constantly respawn if you just keep moving back and forth. The storm tornadoes will make short work of the enemies in that area, and before we drop down this shaft, let's charge up our Chameleon Sting so that we can just quickly walk through this mole borer when we get to the bottom. One of the 4 sub-tanks is hidden behind it, and if you don't have the Chameleon Sting, you could just quickly jump up the wall once the mole borer starts moving, or you can wait until it gets all the way to the end and explodes, and then just backtrack to where the sub-tank is. Keep working your way to the right past the mole borer. We have several useful sub-weapons that we can use to take on the enemies here. The fire wave works quite well, and of course the storm tornadoes are also effective. Once we reach the end of this segment of track, we're going to hop up a small wall, and there will be another one of those red platforms that we can ride on the other side, and that's going to quickly get us through the next area. So just hop up here and jump on. Try to avoid the spiky ends of this red platform as you ride it down to the bottom. There's a few dig labors down here, and of course some more baton bones, and whenever you see that wall at the end, that's when you want to jump off. Down here we'll find another mole borer, and we can do a similar strategy to what we used before by using our Chameleon Sting to make ourselves invulnerable, and then you can quickly dash through the mole borer to reach the heart tank. You can also try destroying the mole borer from behind. The flame wave works pretty well for this, and if you can destroy it before it reaches the heart tank, you'll be able to get it that way as well. Past the heart tank, we will reach the final red cart. There are some flying bird enemies here, which are called metal wings. You can try to shoot them, but it's not super necessary. Just make sure you jump off the cart at the very end so you don't end up in the pit. There's a health item at the top, and the boss door is below. Armored Armadillo was designed for subterranean warfare, and he quickly joined up with Sigma when the rebellion began. He usually starts out with his rolling attack. You want to climb the wall until he charges towards you, then stay at the bottom until he hits above you, then go back to the top again. Keep alternating top and bottom while he's doing his rolling attack, and you'll avoid it every time. The electric shock will remove Armored Armadillo's defenses, and it also does quite a bit of damage. Without his shields, you can even hit him while he's doing the rolling attack. So yeah, this guy's pretty easy if you have the electric spark, but if you're using the X-Buster only, it is much more difficult because this guy can block you. If you release a charged shot as his energy meter is filling up, you should be able to get in an opportunistic hit as the fight begins. We're going to avoid the rolling attack just as we did with the optimal weapon, so whenever he hits below you, make sure you're up at the top of the wall, and then go down to the ground until he hits above you, at which point you'll want to start climbing again. This time we can't damage him while he's doing the rolling attack, so you want to try to shoot him when he's firing these small balls at you. Unfortunately, sometimes he'll block your shot and then he'll charge up a counterattack. Get far away from him when he's charging up the counterattack so you'll be able to jump over it when he releases. Because many of your shots will be blocked, don't bother completely charging up your X-Buster every time. You're better off just charging it up a little bit and shooting him more frequently. If you insist on charging your Buster up all the way whenever the boss is shooting at you, there's a good chance that more of your attacks are going to get blocked than actually get through. So just focus on avoiding the boss's attacks and chipping away at his health as much as you can. It's very easy to avoid the rolling attack when you know the pattern, and you'll just have to deal with the fact that this guy blocks you every now and again. You can see that even after several minutes of battling this guy, we've only dealt about 2/3 of his health bar in damage, so this fight can definitely go long. Don't be afraid to use one of your sub-tanks if you get low on health. You definitely don't want to have to start this battle over from scratch. Honestly, the moral to this story is don't fight Armored Armadillo without the electric spark if you don't have to. The weapon that you get for defeating this boss is not one of the more useful ones that we're going to use frequently, so there's not a great reason to try to come here early in the game just to secure that weapon. Many of the other bosses in this game are not that hard to beat with the X-Buster, but this one is exceptionally tedious. After a few thousand well-placed shots, Armored Armadillo will be sent back to the hole that he crawled out of. And our reward is the Rolling Shield. The Rolling Shield fires a large projectile that drops when fired in the air, and it can bounce off of walls. If you fully charge it up, it will create a bubble-like shield around X that will damage the next thing that you bump into, while protecting Mega Man himself. As far as defensive weapons go, it's nowhere near as good as the charged up Chameleon Sting, but it's still useful. And now, there is only one Robot Master remaining on our list. It's time for us to take on Launch Octopus. Launch Octopus, the aquatic robot that rules the seas, is not to be confused with Lunch Octopus, who makes sandwiches at Subway. Now that we're in here, we can experiment with the rolling shields we just got, and I don't recommend using the Fire Wave weapon underwater. It's not the best, but the Storm Tornado still works great, so that's going to be our primary weapon here on the top side. The beach drops off here and we'll enter the water. Underwater, we can jump a lot farther and higher, especially if you do a dash jump. You can cover a ton of ground with one of those. Watch out for the sea attackers. These are seahorses that pop up. Whenever you see them, just stop moving for a moment and shoot any sea attackers that are directly in front of you. The rest of them should just swim away. This submarine, called an Anglerge, is easy to defeat if you stand about this distance from it and pelt it with your Chameleon Sting. It really doesn't stand much of a chance. The storm tornadoes work well on these fish called gulpfers, but if one of them does suck you in, turn off the storm tornado and switch to the X-Buster as you try to shoot out of it. You will waste a ton of ammo otherwise. The best way I found to deal with this red Anglerge is to charge up your Chameleon Sting so that you get that invulnerability, and then just stand right in front of it and blast it away. By riding these pillars of water, we can get up to the surface, and up here you'll find a health capsule, but over to the right we can ride another pillar of water up, and we will find a boat called a Cruisilier, and if we destroy it, we'll be able to open up a hidden path. A single storm tornado launched into the weak spot on this Cruisilier will destroy the ship, and if you ride it down to the bottom, you'll see that it will break out the ground and reveal the hidden path below. Down here we'll face an Utuboros dragon, and if you stand on its back and fire a storm tornado at its head while facing in the direction that it's moving, you can destroy it in a single shot. The tail portion is also vulnerable, but the middle is not. Over here on the right, we'll find our 7th heart tank, so we almost have full health. From here, we just need to backtrack a little bit and wall jump up to the surface, and then we're going to continue to the right. There's another Ouroboros dragon up here for us to fight, but this one is even easier. When it comes up out of the ground, you can shoot a storm tornado right here to destroy it before it even emerges. Yep, that's it. Ouroboros down. From here, we're almost to the end. There's a few more of those gulp fur fish that we'll need to try to avoid. Remember to switch to the X-Buster if you do get consumed by one of the fish so that you can shoot your way out without wasting all of your ammo. And here is the boss gate. Launch Octopus was originally a maverick hunter in the robot navy, but when Sigma's rebellion began, he quickly joined up because he believes in a humanless nation only for Reploids. It's possible to crash into Launch Octopus with the fully powered rolling shield for heavy damage, but the regular shields deal plenty of damage on their own, and they are much faster. Whenever he does this whirlwind attack, don't let him grab you or he'll actually absorb some of your health. It's fairly easy to avoid, just dash away from it, or even just hold a direction away from it and you should be safe. Hit him with the rolling shields when you see an opportunity, or jump up above him and lob them onto his face. It'll only take a few hits to defeat this guy. Something else that you may want to try is using the boomerang cutters against Launch Octopus. If you hit him with enough boomerangs, he'll lose his arms, and then he won't have access to most of his attacks anymore. He'll just basically bounce around the room while shooting torpedoes at you, and that should be pretty easy to deal with. You'll want to switch over to your rolling shields or the X-Buster after removing the arms. The boomerang cutters do not deal a lot of damage, but you'll see that without his arms, Launch Octopus is very limited. If you need to use the X-Buster only against Launch Octopus, one nice thing about your charged blasts is that they can clear out some of the projectiles that Launch Octopus will fire at you. So whenever this guy is firing volleys of torpedoes or fish, hit him with a big charged blast, and then follow up with either semi-charged blasts or even completely uncharged shots. You'll be able to tag him for a few damage here and there, and that will certainly add up. One thing that you really cannot afford is to be grabbed by the whirlwind attack, so if you see him doing that, make sure to dash away. You also can't damage him while he's in the whirlpool, so wait until the whirlpool finishes, and that will be a good opportunity to hit him with a nice charged shot. Bam! One more should do it, and that's the end of Launch Octopus. Our reward for sending Launch Octopus to Davy Jones's locker is the homing torpedoes. Or no, wait, I'm sorry. It's the horming torpedoes. Whenever you fire these missiles, they will chase down the nearest enemy, making them a good choice for flying targets. The fully charged version releases a volley of 5 homing fish. Before we go here, if you destroy the Crucilier and then hurry to the right so that you make the Ouroboros dragon over here spawn, we can destroy that dragon, and whenever we go back to the left, you'll notice that the wreckage of the Crucilier ship will not be there. So we'll quickly take this guy out. Took 2 shots this time, wasn't in the exact right position to get him in one, but that doesn't matter. Once that guy's destroyed, head back over here, and where's the ship? I mean, that's really all there is to this trick. It's not extremely useful, but it is interesting. With all 8 robot masters defeated, we will see this scene between X and Zero. It seems that Zero has found Sigma's fortress. It's time to head in there and put a stop to his war against humanity. Or at least it would be, but we have a couple of things to take care of first. In Sting Chameleon stage, there's a heart tank that we haven't obtained yet, and you'll see that now that we've re-entered after defeating Launch Octopus, this area is flooded. We don't need to go very far here, you just want to work your way to the right and head to the area below where we got the armor upgrade. So we'll just storm tornado our way over, and we're going to go down here where we can use our boot upgrade to break some of these blocks. Now we're going to charge up our shotgun ice so that we can create one of those penguin sleds. Fire the sled, jump on it, and then dash jump off to it as it slides to the right. If you did it correctly, you'll be able to easily collect the last heart tank. Now that we have every heart tank, every sub-tank, all of the Robot Master weapons, and the 4 capsule upgrades, we can unlock the most powerful upgrade in the game, the Hadoken. We're going to find it at the very end of the Armored Armadillo stage, and you may want to come back to Armored Armadillo stage anyway, because this is a great place to refill your sub-tanks before we enter Sigma's fortress. Down here is a mole borer. The first time we went through this stage, I showed the strategy where you can use the Chameleon sting to get past this guy. Well, if you get behind it, you can also easily destroy the mole borer using the fire wave. Be careful when you charge up the fire wave, it will release a very powerful attack, but it does drain the ammo of the weapon, and with our helmet power up, we can collect a few of these health capsules which will be added to our sub-tanks. It is critical when you're going for the Hadoken that you have at least 3 extra lives in reserve. If you don't, you may want to farm some of the enemies until you find a few. You will have to die several times to get this. Luckily, with all of our power-ups and upgrades, it's very easy to get through this stage now. So we'll just ride this red cart over to the right. This will take us to the second mole borer, or almost to it. We'll jump off here and drop down. If you're not using the charged up Chameleon sting here, make sure to hold to the left so you don't drop directly on top of the mole borer. And if you toast it with your fire wave for a while and then unleash the fully powered version, that should be enough to destroy the machine. Over here, we've reached the last red cart in the stage, and this one's going to carry us to the end. We want to make sure that we jump off of this at the end and then climb up to grab the health capsule. It's not completely necessary to climb up and grab the health capsule, but we might as well add it to our sub-tanks, and it will confirm that we went far enough. After getting it, drop down and die on the right side. Now we need to die 2 more times, and then we'll find the capsule that we're looking for on the 4th trip. If you use the X-Buster and rapidly shoot the back of the mole borer, you can actually destroy it fairly effectively, and you may be able to get to the heart tank just fast enough, so that's another strategy you could try. And here is that last red platform, so we're just going to ride it all the way to the right. We'll jump up and grab that health capsule, and then we'll drop down to our death. So that's all you gotta do. Jump up here, grab this, and drop down. Like I said, it's not completely necessary that you grab the health capsule, but you might as well while you're there. Now I'm gonna speed this up because you definitely know what to do now. So we're just gonna ride the platform over to the side and die 1 more time, and this time when we head over there, the capsule should be up on that ledge. So 1 more time, we're gonna zip past the mole borer. So just dashity dash past this guy using the Chameleon sting, and that's going to take us over to the red cart, and we'll ride it to the right. And here we go. Just keep riding over to the right, past these birds. You probably want to blast those guys, and there it is. You'll see that Dr. Light is wearing the typical Ryu outfit, and that's because we're about to get a move from Street Fighter. Once you collect the capsule, you can exit the stage, but I do want to show you one more thing here now that we have it. And that's what it looks like. To do the Hadoken, what you need to do is start with your thumb on down, and you want to slide it up to the forward direction. So if you're facing right, slide it towards the right. And you need to have full health to do the Hadoken, and you need to have your weapon set to the X Buster. The Hadoken is the most powerful attack in the game. It can kill most enemies and even bosses in a single hit. Now, when you're riding this platform, if you fire off a Hadoken and then charge your weapon up to the pink level, if the Hadoken's still on the screen, whenever you fire it off, it'll look like you shot a wave of Hadokens in front of you. So that's just a cool little thing you can do. And with that, let's exit and make our way to Sigma's Fortress. Choose the square in the lower right corner to access the fortress. After finishing any of the Sigma stages, you can go back to the other Robot Master stages to farm items for your sub-tanks or maybe to get extra lives. And whenever you go back, you will just pick up where you left off. You will not have to start back at Sigma Stage 1. It's worth mentioning because in other Mega Man games, if you went to some other Robot Master stages between Dr. Wily stages, you would have to start over. As usual, the Storm Tornado will make short work of the regular enemies here. And then we come to the propeller platforms. This part can be a little bit frustrating. Wait until you see a good opportunity to jump to the next platform above you, and you may need to wall jump off the side of it to get up on top. There are enemies that will attack you here. I like to use the homing torpedoes. Those will take them out without too much effort, and you don't want to get bumped into when you're trying to jump from platform to platform. And that's really the most difficult part of this entire stage. The rest of it is actually quite easy. Don't be afraid to use your sub-weapons here. Whenever we finish Sigma Stage 1, we will have all of our sub-weapons automatically refilled before the second part. Also, don't worry too much about taking damage in this section. We're about to fight Vile, and just like when we fought him in the highway, we're going to lose the first time that we battle him here. After that loss though, we will get a full refill on our health, so as long as you make it to this boss door alive, you do not have to worry about how much health you have for this next fight. Honestly, in some ways it might be better if we showed up here with less health remaining, because we're just going to have to let Vile beat on us until we get low enough for him to stun X, and then Zero can bail us out. We just can't defeat his ride armor. It's too powerful. So don't waste your good sub-weapons fighting this guy. Feel free to shoot him with your X-Buster if you want to, but it doesn't really matter. You mostly just want to stand on top of him and let him pummel you. Whenever it seems like all hope is lost, you'll notice that Zero appears to be trapped in a cage, but they never made a cage that can really hold Zero. He's just biding his time and waiting for a good opportunity. After placing X on the left side of the screen, he turns his back to Zero to laugh. And that was just the opportunity the Maverick Hunter was looking for. He smashes out of the cage and uses a kamikaze explosion attack to destroy the ride armor. Not only does this powerful attack destroy Vile's ride armor, but it also frees X from his static prison and completely refills his health. Unfortunately, it seems like it has a bit of a delayed effect, but it certainly surprises Vile when X is suddenly free and has a full health bar. Without his ride armor, the most effective weapon against Vile is the rolling shield that we got from Armored Armadillo, so we're going to switch over to that as soon as the battle begins. This time the battle is for real. We actually need to win this one. Vile has 3 primary attacks. He will stand on the side and shoot at you. You can just jump over those while returning fire with your rolling shields. He will charge across the bottom, so you just want to jump over him when he does that. Or he'll fly across you and drop bombs, so just stay out of his way whenever he's doing that. The rolling shields will make short work of this guy, but what if you want to use the X-Buster only? Charge up your attacks and hit him whenever he pops onto the screen. He does spend a good amount of time off screen, but that's a good opportunity for you to charge up. Unlike most of the other bosses in this game, the X-Buster actually deals significant damage to this guy, so just keep hitting him with your charged blue ball attacks. You don't need to go all the way up to the pink attack, and you should be able to beat Vile with no problems. So use the rolling shields if you have them, and if you don't, the X-Buster is not a bad option. But what about that Hadoken attack that we just got? Make sure you have full health, look for a good opening, and fire it at Vile whenever he's standing still. Remember that you're going to roll your thumb from down to forward and then press the fire button to do a Hadoken. It may take a little bit of practice if you're not familiar with Street Fighter, but anyone that's played those games before should have no problem. With Vile out of the way, we come across what remains of Zero. Much like Optimus Prime, he's made the ultimate sacrifice to protect humanity. But don't shed too many tears for my boy Zero. I've played the other games in the series, and I know that he'll be back as good as new. In later entries, he'll be a playable character, and he'll even eventually get his own spin-off series. So yeah, Zero's gonna be just fine. Use your Chameleon Sting to quickly get through that section filled with security bots and lasers. And up here, we can charge up our Storm Tornado to get rid of the enemies that patrol the walls. These dodge blasters can be pretty obnoxious, but they have no chance of avoiding your fully charged Storm Tornado. Of course, another thing you can use is the Chameleon Sting. Charge it up and get that invincibility going, and then you can just go right through the enemies. There's a lot of enemies there that constantly respawn, so either of those two strategies is recommended. In this room, we face a rematch with Boomer Kuwanger. We have the homing torpedoes this time, so we can just hang out in the upper corners and pelt this guy with missiles. We're going to have to face a rematch against all 8 of the Robot Master bosses here in Sigma's Fortress, but they're spread out across the first 3 Sigma stages, so we won't be doing a proper capsule room boss gauntlet like we would in a previous Mega Man game. Boomer Kuwanger is the only rematch that we'll be facing here in the first Sigma stage, and if you have full health, don't be afraid to try using the Hadoken on him, which will destroy him in a single shot. It is very satisfying. Beyond Boomer is a short hallway that leads to the main boss of this stage, so use your flame waves to get through the enemies here, or even just use Chameleon Sting to make yourself invulnerable and just run past them. It's not a very long hallway to get through, so just try to keep your health high because we are going to have to fight a challenging boss through here. This next boss is called the Bow Spider, and it may be one of the most difficult bosses in the game. Its weakness is the shotgun ice, and you can try charging up the shotgun ice. If you can hit this thing with the fully charged blast, you can deal a lot of damage, but you'll need to hit it at point blank range because the spider only opens its weak point for a few frames when it gets to the bottom of the screen. The spider will appear at the top of one of the 4 posts in the room, and then some bamboo will appear between the posts, and whenever the spider moves down, it must cross any of those bamboo poles that it encounters. If you had infinite time, you'd be able to study the pattern of the poles, and you'd be able to figure out exactly where the spider is going to end at the bottom, but it moves very quickly, so you're better off just taking your best guess. The bow spider also will drop smaller spiders on you occasionally. Those can be cleared out with your weapons, but they're kind of hard to hit with the shotgun ice, so it's usually best to just try to jump over them and let them run up the sides of the screen. With enough shotgun ice, you should be able to freeze out this spider, but don't feel bad if you need to use a sub-tank or two to win. Even with the appropriate weapon, this boss can be quite tough, and if we need to use the X-Buster only, well, it's going to be even more difficult. Even the fully charged X-Buster only deals 3 points of damage to this guy whenever you hit, so we're going to have to be very careful not to collide with the spider as it heads down to the bottom. Whenever you see it moving your way, dash to the left or right side of the room, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid getting hit. Of course, using the X-Buster isn't all bad. Whenever the bow spider releases the smaller spiders, they're a lot easier to clear out using this weapon. Sometimes you'll notice that there are very few bamboo poles, if any, between 2 of the 4 poles. Use that as a good clue. The spider will only be able to go over one of those and then will probably go directly to the bottom or will stay away from that side entirely. Sometimes when you clear out the smaller spiders, you won't have time to completely recharge your X-Buster before shooting the boss, but if you just hit with the blue fireball, that's completely okay because it deals the same amount of damage here as your fully charged pink blast. As the fight goes on, the boss moves faster and faster, and it can be difficult to hit it sometimes. It feels pretty bad whenever you miss your shot, especially since we're only dealing 3 points of damage each time, but you really can't worry about that. You need to focus more on avoiding damage, and eventually you should be able to win. Looks like it's only going to take about 2 more hits to defeat the spider here, and now only 1 more, and with 1 point of health left, even an uncharged shot will do it, so we just need to score 1 more hit to win. And that's it. The bow spider is defeated using the X-Buster only. Now, as challenging as that was, if you're good at using the Hadoken and you have full health, well, there is a much easier way to defeat this boss. Just make sure you don't take any damage from its first attack and position yourself so that you can hit it. It goes slow at first, so you need to throw the Hadoken a little bit early, but if you time it just right, you can defeat the bow spider in a single shot. And with that, we've finished Sigma Stage 1, but before we go on, I want to show you a trick that you can use to potentially skip the Boomer Kuwanger rematch. In this tall shaft that you'll encounter after defeating Vile, climb up to nearly the top of it so that you see that ladder, and then use your boomerang cutters on the dodge blasters here. If one of them drops an item and you collect it with your boomerang cutter as you jump up in the air to the left, if you collect it just as the top of the ladder touches the screen, you will create an invisible door which will pull you over to the right. Now, it is very important that you create that invisible door far enough to the left so that you can trigger the Boomer Kuwanger energy meter to appear and then drop back down to the bottom of this shaft, which will reset the camera position. I'm not gonna lie, making the door appear in just the right spot is extremely difficult. If you're too far to the right, you won't be able to drop down to the bottom, and if you're too far to the left, you won't be able to spawn the boss's health meter. If you did it correctly though, you'll see that Boomer Kuwanger doesn't appear, and the door on the right side simply explodes, letting you through. You'll also notice that this boss music will continue until you make it all the way to the bow spider. So, if you don't like that, I guess that's an issue, but it's not really a big problem. And whenever you get here, things will go back to normal. So while this is a handy shortcut that you could potentially use, it's probably much easier to just fight Boomer Kuwanger the normal way. Before going on to Sigma Stage 2, you may want to stop into Armored Armadillo stage to refill your sub-tanks, but we didn't use any sub-tanks that time, so we're just going to move on. There's a little bit of platforming to do here at the beginning of the stage, and you'll be much safer if you use your Chameleon Sting to make yourself invulnerable before crossing over that pit. We will have to fight Storm Eagle later in this stage, so you may want to save some of your Chameleon Sting for that, but I do think it's worth using at the very beginning here. And through this door, we'll encounter our rematch with Chill Penguin. The first time we fought Chill Penguin, we didn't have the fire wave, but we do have it this time, and if you just hose him down with this, he'll keep taking damage until he's about to do his slide attack. Once you see that he's not taking damage from the fire wave, get ready to jump over the slide attack, and then keep up the heat whenever he stops sliding. The fully charged version of the fire wave deals a lot of damage to Chill Penguin, but it uses a whole lot of weapon energy, so I think it's better to just stop pressing the button every now and again so that we don't waste a full charge. Of course, if you have full health, you can always just do a Hadoken. I like to wait for him to spit his 4 ice crystals, and then there's just a perfect opportunity when he's standing still to take him out in a single blast. This next segment is just a nice, easy cruise with a ride armor. So we're going to take out the armored soldier with a charged blast, and we'll be able to hijack his ride armor, which we can use to get through this segment without taking any damage or using any of our weapon energy. If you find any ammo refill items, make sure that it goes to your Chameleon Sting and not to the fire wave. We are going to need a good bit of Chameleon Sting moving forward through this stage. Keep punching your way through the armored soldiers, as well as the sign fallers. Up here, we'll have to abandon our armor, and we can use a fully charged blast of Chameleon Sting to quickly climb through this area filled with dodge blasters. If you don't want to use your Chameleon Sting, you can also try charged up Storm Tornado. That might be a better way to go. The Chameleon Sting is the weapon that's most effective against Storm Eagle, and the regular blasts will deal good damage, while the protective ability can actually keep you completely safe during this battle, allowing you to get very close to the boss without risk. As nice as it is to be able to simply obliterate the boss using this technique, you may want to consider just using your X-Buster, because the Chameleon Sting is the weapon we will want to use for the final boss of this stage, so you want to make sure you have enough weapon energy for that. To really conserve your Chameleon Sting, just use the Hadoken. If you have full health, it's not hard to get close enough to let loose one of these one-shot wonders. Past Storm Eagle's roost, there's not much left of this stage, other than a very dangerous boss. There's an enemy up above us, which we can take out with our boomerang cutters. The ones that loop up towards the enemy will hit him from behind, and any that don't hit him will actually be returned to your weapon energy as long as they return to Mega Man. Of course, like in many other places, the Storm Tornadoes are another good choice for these vertical sections. And up here, we'll reach the boss, the Rangda Bangda. Rangda Bangda is its official name, but I feel like most people just think of this thing as the creepy face in the wall. As the fight begins, the eye on the right opens up, and when you see the red eye, it's going to be firing sets of 3 projectiles at you, and it may also move towards your position. Hit it with the Chameleon Sting. When the walls come in, make sure to stay on them and keep wall jumping while avoiding the nose. It is critical that you destroy both eyes before you destroy the nose. If you destroy the nose before the eyes, you'll need to fight the remaining eyes in this small, tight, narrow space. So as long as you remember to destroy the nose last and you don't touch the spikes at the bottom, you shouldn't have too much trouble with Rangda Bangda, assuming you have ammo for your Chameleon Sting. If you need to use the X-Buster, we'll have to take advantage of the walls when we're attacking the eyes. We got the blue eye followed by the green eye. The blue eye doesn't shoot projectiles at you, and the green eye will fire them one at a time. The blue eye is definitely going to move towards you, so be ready for that when you see it. Just like with the Chameleon sting, it is very important that you destroy both eyes before destroying the nose. It's okay to put a few hits on the nose, but you do not want to see that thing explode. It will be quite tough to use the X-Buster only if you have to fight in this narrow corridor. The nose bounces off the walls in a predictable pattern, so watch where it's going and try to slide down the wall past it as it moves upward, and hop up past it as it's moving down. You won't be able to damage the nose when it's opening, so it's already too late to fire at that point. You'll just want to start charging your weapon until it closes up again. Hopefully we can get rid of this red eye before we have to face the nose again. Perfect. And now we'll just need to deal a little bit more damage to the centerpiece to finish this boss. See, it was opening up there, we didn't deal any damage. So when you see it center itself in the bottom of the screen, just wait for a moment until it starts moving again. Now you may be wondering, does the Hadoken work? Well, the answer is yes, at least on the eyes. It would be very difficult to connect to the nose with a Hadoken, although it may be possible by using a penguin ice platform. I think it can be done, but it's probably not worth the trouble. However, if the eyes move down to the bottom and you have full health, you can quickly dispatch them with a Hadoken blast. Now we'll switch over to the Chameleon sting, which we can use to finish off the nose. And that's another strategy you could possibly use. X remains motionless as the entire room explodes around him, then moves to the center of the screen before finally teleporting away. There's not much in the fourth Sigma stage other than the final boss fights, so this third Sigma stage is kind of like the end. Don't forget that you can stop over in Armored Armadillo's stage if you want to refill your sub-tanks, and then head into the third part of Sigma's Fortress. This part of Sigma's Fortress is essentially a boss gauntlet. We're going to need to defeat the remaining 5 robot masters here, and then we'll face an all-new boss at the very end. First up is Armored Armadillo, and you may recall that the spark weapon is very good against him. If you charge it up before you get into the room, you can get an opportunistic hit in at the very beginning, and whenever you knock off his armor, he'll be vulnerable even when he's doing his rolling attack. So just keep blasting this guy, and we're not going to need the spark weapon for the remainder of this stage, so don't worry if you use most of it up. Armored Armadillo is not that difficult to defeat with the electric sparks, but what if I told you there was a way to skip this fight altogether? The trick here is to make sure that the camera doesn't move too far upwards, so take very shallow jumps when you get to the top here. You want to fire a fully powered shotgun ice right here, then move near the door. If you did it correctly and you can see the black bar at the bottom of the screen, you can just run across here and you won't have to face the boss at all. The penguin sled needs to actually push you through the door, so you need to be in just the right position for it to work. And of course, if the screen has advanced too far upwards, you won't get any effect out of this at all. Now, if you jump after the wall opens at the back, Armored Armadillo will come down, and if you move into the hallway beyond him, he'll chase you, and you'll face a glitched out version of him. So that's kind of interesting. Not a whole lot of value to that trick, you're not skipping the boss, but it is kind of fun to do. Now, of course, if you're good at the Hadoken, Armored Armadillo doesn't stand a chance. He can't block it. So let him do his rolling attack, and then let him have it. That's really all there is to it. Moving on from here, we don't need to cover a whole lot of ground before we'll face the next boss rematch against Sting Chameleon. The rolling armor works really well against those dig labors, and up at the top here we can grab a health capsule, which we may need after the previous fight. Sting Chameleon is vulnerable to the boomerang cutters, so we'll equip them and we'll power up our weapon before we go through the door, so we can hit him with a max power blast at the very beginning of the fight. As soon as the fight begins, we're going to try to get underneath Sting Chameleon, so we make sure to hit him with this first attack. And then we're going to shoot a boomerang and go to the side of the room. Shoot a boomerang and go to the side of the room. Left side, right side, left side, right side. Just keep this rhythm up and you will not take very much damage from this guy, and you'll defeat him in a very short amount of time. Using the boomerang cutter is very effective against Sting Chameleon, and I have to say that the Hadoken is not so much, but we're going to try to use it on him anyways. The trick is to charge up a penguin sled, then we're going to jump up the wall, fire it, we'll stand on it in mid-air, and then we're going to do the Hadoken motion, but don't press the fire button. Instead, you want to press start, switch to the X Buster, and immediately press shoot as the game fades in. This is not easy to do, but Sting Chameleon spends such a small amount of time on the floor of the room that it's really hard to catch him with a Hadoken otherwise. Before we move on to fight Spark Mandrill, we can use our boomerang cutter here to retrieve the power-ups behind the pipes. So we'll grab those, and then we're going to switch over to the shotgun ice, because that's the best weapon to defeat this guy with. Remember that the fully charged shotgun ice does not have a whole lot of range, so if you're going to use it to deal him an amount of damage, you're going to have to get close. Otherwise, you just want to shoot him shortly after he unfreezes. So let him unfreeze, wait a beat, and then shoot him again. He'll become frozen, and then you'll be able to keep disrupting his attacks. If you continue that pattern, Spark Mandrill won't have much of a chance to damage you. Now, unlike Sting Chameleon, it is not difficult to catch Spark Mandrill with your Hadoken. So as soon as he drops down on the ground, if you have full health, you can just unleash it. We took a hit there, but as long as you got the Hadoken off first, it'll still deal lethal damage to the boss. Beyond the electric primate, we'll find an area filled with water, so you won't be surprised to learn that Launch Octopus is up next. Remember, if you get eaten by these gulp fur fish, you want to switch over to your X Buster to blast your way out. Also, if you go up here to pick up the power-ups, those fish are going to respawn, so be ready for that when you move back to the left. We know the rolling shield is the optimal weapon for defeating this boss, and it looks like we have plenty of ammo. The basic strategy here is to hit him with the rolling shields by jumping up and lobbing them onto the boss's head. Otherwise, they could get caught in all of the torpedoes and fish that the boss sends at you, and they may not make it to their mark. Just stay away from the boss when he uses the whirlpool. You don't have to dash, but it is probably the best way to escape. Keep shooting with your rolling shields, and Launch Octopus won't stand a chance. And he also won't stand a chance if you want to try out the Hadoken on him. So of course we need to have full health, not really a problem. And as soon as this fight gets started, he likes to jump at the beginning, so just shoot through the first few torpedoes, and whenever he lands, hit him with that Hadoken. And that will be the end of Launch Octopus. If you've been keeping count, you'll know that there's one rematch remaining, and that boss is Flame Mammoth. Up here, there's a few power-ups on top of this spiky field, and there's a few ways that you can get them. You'll be able to grab the 1-up by riding over with the ice sled, but that won't work to grab the other 2 items. You can get those using your boomerang cutter, or you can charge up your Chameleon Sting, and while you're protected by the invulnerability, you can just walk on those spikes. As we pass through the door, we'll see the familiar conveyor belt space that comprises Flame Mammoth's room. He lets out a war trumpet and starts doing his earth-shaking attack. If you use the full power of the storm tornado, you can deal a lot of damage, but sometimes the tornadoes will hit him twice when you're just using the normal horizontal ones, and that would actually be more damage and a lot more efficient. It does not take a lot of storm tornadoes to defeat this guy. This is our last rematch, and it may be one of the easier ones to win using our Hadoken technique. So let's take a look at that very quickly. The boss will jump often at the beginning, so make sure that you're not disrupted by his jump, and just get him when he's flat on the ground. That's all there is to it. After Flame Mammoth has completely disintegrated, the wall on the right side will open. And this is going to take us straight to the final boss of this stage, a mechanical monstrosity called D-Rex. D-Rex will split into two pieces and will try to crash into X. You want to avoid the top piece and the left and right side of the bottom piece, but you can stand on top of the bottom piece with no problem. The easiest way to hit D-Rex with the boomerang cutters is to either stand on the bottom piece and fire them while standing still, or jump and shoot the top part of D-Rex at point blank range. Only the top piece is vulnerable. You won't get very far trying to damage the bottom part. Now, if you're trying to fight this guy with the X-Buster only, you're going to want to use the walls. The top vulnerable piece of D-Rex does a lot of hovering at the top of the screen, so you'll want to charge up, bounce off the walls, and shoot him in midair. Like most of the late game bosses, you don't need to charge your buster all the way up to the full pink charge. The blue fireball will be good enough against this guy, and you'll have a great opportunity to deal some damage whenever he shoots these laser balls at you. If you stay on the far left side of the screen, whenever he fires the laser ball, you can dash underneath it. The boss is not very fast at the beginning of the battle, but as the fight rages on, it gets much quicker and it becomes a lot more difficult to avoid getting slammed into the walls. Make sure to take advantage of the opportunities when it's firing the laser balls at you. That's a great time to get in a couple charge shots, and if you know how to dash underneath them, you don't have to worry about taking damage. And that's how you beat the D-Rex, just using your X-Buster. But can we use the Hadoken on this thing? The answer, as you may have guessed, is yes, but how exactly do we do it? You need to be standing on the bottom piece whenever the top piece moves down low enough to get into range. This often happens at the very beginning of the fight, so if you position yourself correctly, you should be able to get the Hadoken off with no problem. And that's it for Sigma Stage 3. Beyond here, we only have one more stage left. This'll be the last time we have to look at Sigma's ugly mug in the middle of our stage select screen. What is up with his eyes? Don't forget to refill your sub tanks if you've used them in the previous stage. You will be very happy to have them when you face the bosses at the top of this shaft. To get to the top, just keep wall jumping up the left side. If you jump fast enough, you won't even notice the few enemies that spawn out of the holes on the side of the room. Before we get the opportunity to duel Sigma himself, he insists that we battle his vicious dogbot named Velgarder. He says, "I could destroy you, but I would not rob my pet of that pleasure." And as a dog owner myself, yeah, I guess I get that. We've already trashed hundreds of robots on the way to the top of this fortress, so we might as well add one more to the scrap pile. The shotgun ice is the way to go against this monster. Climb up to the upper corners of the room where most of its attacks won't be able to reach you, and you can just keep firing the shotgun ice at the wall, and the pieces that break off will rain down on Velgarder and deal him tons of damage. Now it's time for Sigma. This guy was Sigma long before that was something that people said. As the commander of the Maverick Hunters, whenever Sigma went rogue, well, he took a lot of the other Reploids with him. In this game, Sigma wields a lightsaber like some sort of Maverick Sith Lord. The electric spark is the optimal weapon to use against him, and the way you want to use it is go all the way to the top corner of the room, and Sigma will try to chase you, but he needs to go back and forth across the entire room to do so. Whenever he gets close to the top, drop down as he's flying away from you and let him have it with the electric spark. You can charge up your electric sparks for extra damage, but in doing so, you will rapidly deplete the ammo for the weapon, so I recommend that you mostly just use the uncharged sparks. Even if you miss your shot, the electric spark will split when it hits the other wall, and Sigma may be hit by the blast anyways. If you come into contact with Sigma, you're going to take a ton of damage, and this is not the final boss. There is still one more after this, and you need to defeat all 3 bosses here on a single life. If you die against any of them, you'll have to start this stage over from the beginning. That means you'll want to be careful to conserve your health and sub-tanks until you make it to this third, very difficult form of the boss. This is Wolf Sigma. The rolling shield is by far the best weapon to use against this boss, but you'll need to hit the head at the top of the screen, which is easier said than done. The easiest way to do this is to stand on one of the wolf paws. These platforms mostly move in a circular pattern, so jump when they're at the top of the circle and launch a rolling shield. Anytime you notice that the paw has stopped moving, you want to move X to the far left or right edge of the platform. It's going to make a spark in the middle of it, but if you're on the edge, you'll be able to avoid it. Now, we've been able to defeat every other boss in this game using just the X-Buster, so let's try that out on the final 3 bosses as well. Against Velgarder, you'll want to charge your weapon as you go up the walls, and then do a big dash off of the wall over the boss so that you can hit it from behind. You can disrupt this boss a bit if you hit it with the blue or pink charged blasts. Whenever we face Sigma using the X-Buster only, we're going to do a very similar strategy that we used with the electric spark. You'll want to charge up your weapon as you climb the wall, and you'll want to let loose with some charged blasts as Sigma is flying away from you. So remember to drop and shoot only when Sigma is moving towards the right wall if you're climbing the left wall. It doesn't really matter which wall you use, but at the beginning of the fight, Sigma is going to charge towards you from the right side, so the left wall is a natural place to be. The X-Buster does not deal a ton of damage to this guy. You're going to be dealing 2 points of damage at a time, so it's going to take a lot of hits to finish Sigma off. If you're not trying to challenge yourself to defeat all of the bosses using the X-Buster only, I highly recommend using the electric spark instead. The Storm Tornado is also not terrible. It has a long area of effect, so it's quite easy to connect to the boss when he's jumping across the screen like this. One reason that you may feel like you need to use the X-Buster is because you used up all of your electric sparks and then died on this boss or the next one, so you don't have a whole lot of weapon ammo left. In that case, you may want to farm the creeper enemies at the bottom of the tower. Sometimes they'll drop weapon ammo, and you can use that to refill any of your sub-weapons that have been depleted in previous Sigma attempts. Of course, the even better strategy is to just not die, so if you get low on health against Sigma or Wolf Sigma, just use one of your sub-tanks. You have 4 of them and they're completely refillable. You don't have to refill them on the creepers if you lose all of your lives and get a game over. You can just go back to Armored Armadillo stage where you can fill them up quite quickly. And I highly recommend coming here with 4 full sub-tanks if this is your first time fighting Sigma. It's not going to take very many more hits now. Looks like maybe only 2 or 3 depending on how charged up they are. Well, definitely at least 3 here. So another one, and now 1 more, and that's it. Sigma has been defeated with the X-Buster, but now we need to fight Wolf Sigma with the X-Buster, and this makes me wish that I hadn't challenged myself to do this at all, because fighting Wolf Sigma without the rolling shield is extremely difficult. You really need to get good at moving to the edge of the paw platforms when they're about to do their lightning attack. So anytime they stop moving, that's when you want to start positioning yourself, and you want to do your best to not fall off of the paws, because I almost always end up taking damage here when I need to climb back up onto them. That's when you're most vulnerable. When you're up on the paws, Sigma's other attacks don't really do much to you, but you do need to watch out for the other paw, which can cross over and really mess you up. As you can see, that fully charged Buster Shot only did 1 point of damage against this boss, so we need to be here for the long haul. If you run out of rolling shields and then die, definitely farm the creepers if you're not trying to challenge yourself to beating the game with the X-Buster only. The rolling shields make this boss just so much easier to defeat. We're actually doing really well so far. We've deleted about 1/3 of Sigma's health, and we haven't taken too much damage to ourselves, but that can change at any time. Luckily, we still have all 4 of our sub-tanks if we need them. You might be thinking, should we be just using uncharged shots against this guy? But no, those will just bounce off of it, so make sure you're charging up your Buster if you plan on going this route. And now we're down to about the last 1/3 of Sigma's health bar, and the good news is that this boss doesn't really get more difficult as the fight progresses. He just keeps doing the same thing, so if you're able to avoid most of the attacks and get to the edge of the paws to avoid the lightning, you should be able to do it. If you're looking for a true challenge though, see if you can beat the 3 bosses here in Sigma Stage 4 using only your X-Buster without the armor upgrade. The armor upgrade really helps out here, and if it wasn't for that upgrade, we would have died a long time ago. With the armor, it looks like we took 6 damage on that last hit, so if we had to take double that, we would need to be absolutely perfect to beat this boss. And this is it. 1 more blast will do it. And that's it. We've defeated Wolf Sigma using only the X-Buster. But what about the Hadoken? Does that work? Well, it definitely works against Velgarder. It only takes a single Hadoken to send him packing, and when Sigma attacks us with his lightsaber, if we're quick enough, we may be able to Hadoken him as well. And that's it. It only takes 1 blast to kill that entire boss. But what about Wolf Sigma? Can the Hadoken be used to destroy it in a single shot? To even attempt this, we'll need to ride one of the paw platforms, and we'll need to wait until it moves in such a way that it's in line with the head. So I'm just going to stay here on the edge and, well, you saw it. The Hadoken does not work against Wolf Sigma. Even if you hit it dead on, it won't deal any damage. So I highly recommend using the rolling shield if you've been Hadoukening your way through this entire fortress. So yes, there is one enemy in this game that can stand up to the almighty Hadoken, and it's none other than the final boss. And that's it! We've done it! We've beaten Mega Man X! All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. As Sigma explodes, he only has one question for X. Why? Without the humans, his Reploid brothers could have ushered in a new age. But to what end, Sigma? What would robots be without their human counterparts? A world of just soulless robots sounds like a sad existence. As Sigma's fortress explodes and crashes into the nearby ocean, which has to be catastrophic for the local ecosystem, X simply stands on a ledge and watches. X has surely won, but at what cost? The war has ended for now, and peace has been restored. But those who sacrifice themselves for the victory will never return. Well, except for Zero. Zero will definitely return. Exhausted, X gazes at the destruction he helped cause and wonders why he chose to fight. Was there another way? Perhaps X could have joined Sigma, but destroying all the humans? How would that have been the right thing to do? Standing on the cliff, the answers seem to escape him. He only knows that he'll fight the Mavericks again before he finds his answer. How long will he keep on fighting? How long will his pain last? Maybe only the X-Buster on his hand knows for sure. As X's final thoughts float up into the night sky, he notices that the stars look beautiful tonight. And with that, the story ends for now. It may be a little bit melodramatic, but I do appreciate the darker storyline of the Mega Man X games and the more mature themes that the developers get to explore here. In most of the older Mega Man games, we get some sort of reveal near the end that Dr. Wily was behind everything all along. In this one, we're thinking about whether or not we should fight at all. What it would be like if humanity was wiped out and only robots were left. That's some interesting stuff. This scene is reminiscent of many of the classic Mega Man endings that feature Mega Man running to the left or riding some sort of vehicle in that direction. We get to see an enemy roll call here, so if you've ever wondered what the name of some of the enemies were throughout the game, you'll get to find out that information here. The background lightens up as Mega Man runs, as if the sun is rising and he's moving towards the dawn. After seeing the listing for Sigma stage, the 8 robot masters will appear as ethereal ghosts in the air, as though we're remembering their spirits before they finally move on to the next plane. Most of these bosses weren't truly evil. They were Maverick Hunters themselves for a while, but they were swayed by the influence of Sigma. So as we make our way down this straight and narrow highway, we'll say one last goodbye to our pals Flame Mammoth, Sting Chameleon, Spark Mandrill, and all of the others. Maybe, just maybe, in another dimension, in some other plane of existence, we would have chosen a different path, and maybe then we would have all been friends. And we could have just hung out and had good robot times together instead of trying to exterminate all of humanity. With a blast of his buster and a big dash, we see the last member of the game's cast, and you as Mega Man X. And that's it. Roll the credits. Growing up, I played this game a lot. I was a big Mega Man fan from the very beginning. I had all of the old games for the NES, and when they finally released a new Mega Man game for the Super Nintendo, I was very excited. And while I was able to beat the game probably the first weekend after I got it, I kept going back for more because it was always a good time. In a lot of ways it felt like I had grown up alongside Mega Man, and now that I was a little bit older, they had released a more mature Mega Man game at the perfect time. So while I have a lot of nostalgia for the early games in the Mega Man series, and I love some of the later stuff that Capcom did with like Mega Man 9 and 10, which feel more like the older games, this one is just the perfect evolution of the series, so I have to say they really knocked it out of the park with Mega Man X. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice this rectangular object that faded into view as the credits were rolling. Well, that is a CRT television, so sometime around the year 2100, people abandon the widescreen HD TVs of today, and they go back to the good old 4:3 CRT televisions of yesteryear. And if we wait long enough, that TV will turn on and we'll get to see an ominous message from our good friend Sigma. It seems that we've only won a temporary victory because we destroyed Sigma's body, but his consciousness had been uploaded to the net at some point, and he'll be able to download it into a new body someday, perhaps one that will be strong enough to do his bidding. Sigma promises that he will see X soon. Very soon. And that's how the game ultimately ends. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat Mega Man X, putting an end to Sigma's rebellion, at least for now. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos, because there will always be more evil AIs threatening to corrupt the robots of the world. And that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.